Hello, all. I'm King John. You're you. I'm sick, and you're awesome. But I feel well enough to make a video, although my voice isn't very good right now. And I do have things I want to talk about. I'd like to have a moment to talk to you about why Christians should read the Jewish Tanakh, the Tanakh being the Jewish version of the Christian Old Testament. No, they say they are different versions because there are differences between them, and that's the point. You see, both groups agree that these are in fact that this is in fact the word of God as transcribed by human beings. But the Jewish Tanakh is remarkably preserved. Um, when Jews make a scroll of the Torah being the first 5 books of the Old Testament, there are very strict requirements about how it's made, and very especially about the text, because the text needs to be directly copied from another Torah scroll, and it must be absolutely correct. No changes ever. If a letter is wrong, if even a dot is wrong, the entire Torah scroll is no good. A few years back, some archaeologists found the burned remains of a Jewish Torah scroll from something like 1900 years ago. It's not the year 1900, that's almost 2000 years ago from now. And one of the things they did is they brought in some Jewish Torah scholars, and they compared what there was that was still legible to a modern Torah scroll. And it was, in fact, letter for letter the same. Okay, I need to backtrack a little bit and walk something back, because there are in fact 2 different versions of the Jewish Torah scrolls. One is Ashkenazi, that's Jews who are from Christian countries, and one is Sephardi, which is Jews from Muslim countries. And I think there's a 1 letter difference, like one. I don't remember where or what the letters are, but there's like one particular word, and Ashkenazi Jews spell it one way, and Sephardi Jews spell it another, with a 1 letter difference. And so the Ashkenazi Jews, the Sephardi Torah is no good, and for Sephardi Jews, an Ashkenazi Torah is no good. Although, unfortunately, I understand that the part of the Torah where that 1 word was part of the ancient Torah that was burned beyond recognition. So they never actually settled which is right. So, but if you look at Christian Old Testament, there are differences. Some of them important differences between an Old Testament and a Jewish Tanakh. You see, depending on what version of Old Testament you read, it's been translated from Hebrew to Greek to Latin to English or whatever other language you speak. Now, some other versions have actually been translated even more times to German to English, for example. And with the best will in the world, you can't translate something so many times without things getting changed. I mean, there's a whole game about that in Google Translate. And on top of that, there are a lot of versions of the Bible that actually people made deliberate changes to the Old Testament, and some of the New Testament too. But I digress. In the King James version, for example, the men who were translating the Old Testament into English, they made a deliberate decision to not directly translate it word for word, because there's a lot of it that's supposed to be taken literally, and there's other parts that are more metaphorical. And so they made the decision to try to translate the metaphors to what was then modern English, in using comparable metaphors to make it more understandable for the common people. Now, that's not bad. That's not wrong, as long as you're open and honest and everyone knows about it. Because again, even with the best will in the world, some things are going to be different. Some meanings are going to be lost, especially when you're talking about something as big as the Old Testament. So Christians who want to know the original, literal, actual Word of God should read the Jewish Tanakh, the Torah, and I forget what the rest is called. Now, obviously, it is possible that the Jewish Tanakh also has some inaccuracies. Some parts have been gotten lost or changed over the years, because it was first because although because although the modern Torah scrolls are the same, as far as we can tell, with ones from almost 2,000 years ago, for a long time, the Tanakh was actually passed down through oral tradition before it was actually written down. Now, this is this is a fair point, but it is also a fair point to say that things that are passed down through an oral tradition can actually be very, very accurately passed on. And there are different ways of doing that. In some Pacific Island cultures, their oral tradition is that each story belongs to a particular person, and so that person learns and memorizes the exact story, word for word, and then before they die, they pass it on to another person, and that person becomes the owner of the story. And so they managed to pass on stories very accurately through across many generations. Now, Jews don't have that, but historically they did have very specific ways of singing, essentially the prayers and the stories from the Old Testament, from the Tanakh. And even to this day, when they're reading from a Torah scroll, they sing it, really, using very particular tunes. And there's actually could be a lot of controversy among Jews about what songs are used and how they're formulated. So, as far as we are able to tell, the Jewish Tanakh is the closest that we have, that we can be sure of, to the actual genuine Word of God as put down by the hand of man. And so that is why Christians should read the Old Testament, the Jewish Tanakh. Because while some of the differences are very small, like using a metaphor instead of a direct translation, some of the differences are actually quite big. For example, in something of the Catholic sort of canticles, the tractates of the Catholic Church, they translate the fifth commandment. I think it's the fifth, maybe the sixth. You shall not kill, and so lots of people are certain there's a commandment. That's the right commandment. That's the right translation, but it's not, because in the Jewish Tanakh, the same one that is the exact same letter for letter as the Torah scroll from almost 2,000 years ago, the commandment is you shall not murder. And in the Old Testament, there's a very strong distinction made between kill and murder. So that is a very important difference. Now, I am not a Bible scholar, so there's a lot that I do not know. So there are a lot of differences. I know nothing about. I know that there are differences, but I don't remember any other than that one because it's such a big deal, and that is a really big, really important difference. And I think that's all I meant to say. I hope the audio is good enough you can actually understand me because I can't hear myself very well. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Please comment below with anything you have to say. I'd love to know what you think. And have a good day and God bless.